Welcome to the Den of Episodes. I'm Marlowe Fox, and this is your cozy little corner of the internet. I want this to be a place for like-minded fans to relax, unwind, and revisit a beloved early 2000s series, Monarch of the Glen. My hope is that we can enjoy the charm and quiet humor of the show together, and maybe even learn a bit here and there about British culture and slang, one episode at a time. So grab your cup of tea or coffee, settle in, and let's journey together through the Highlands. Series 1, Episode 1 originally aired February 27th, 2000. The show was created by Michael Chaplin, based loosely on the 1941 novel Monarch of the Glen by Compton Mackenzie. It is currently streaming on Amazon Prime. And now time for our fireside summary. After living in London for several years, Archie MacDonald rushes home after being told his father is in a bad way. Upon his arrival, he finds his father not at all at death's door. Eventually, much to his dismay, he is given the news that for tax purposes, he is now the owner of the entire estate and the new laird of Glen Bogle. In our first episode, we're introduced to a cast of characters that are very quirky, very lovable. And I'm going to give you a bit of information about each of the main ones that we're going to see in especially the first few seasons of the series. We have Archie MacDonald. He's the dashing new laird. He's idealistic and earnest. Justine is the girlfriend of Archie. She's ambitious, cunning, and polished. Hector MacDonald is the patriarch. He's charismatic, self-indulgent, unpredictable, and I would also say he's grumpy. Then we have Molly MacDonald. She's the matriarch. She's kind, supportive, patient, loving, the glue that holds the family together. Lexie is the housekeeper and cook. She's fiery, down-to-earth, loyal, and has killer abs that I'm very envious of. Duncan is the groundsman handyman, well-meaning, clumsy, and endearing, and definitely has a crush on Lexie. Golly is the estate manager and head gamekeeper. He's grizzled, dependable, and wry. And there's just one ancillary character I'll mention in this episode, and that is Robbie Fraser. He's responsible for handling the estate finances. In the Foxy Spotlight this week, we have Alistair Mackenzie. He plays Archie MacDonald. He was born on February 8, 1970, which makes him 55 years old at the time of this recording. He was born in the small village of Trinafore in Scotland and moved to London at the age of 18. He has a longtime partner, fellow actress Susan Vidler, and they have 2 children. Up to this point, Alistair's had 80 acting credits to his name, including playing Perrin Firtha in the Star Wars series Andor. His current project is a film called Object Permanence, and it is currently in post-production. And that was my dog Ava. The episode opens with Hector MacDonald shaving when he hears the bellow of a stag. He rushes to the window and looks through his telescope where he spies an enormous deer he refers to as Big Eric. This tells us he's quite familiar with the creature. He takes off in his dressing gown, jumps on the jet ski, and off he goes as Duncan tries to warn him that the throttle keeps jamming. The jet ski quickly goes out of control, and Hector ends up in the lock. Jump to a ringing telephone at the Flying Fish restaurant where Archie and his girlfriend Justine are getting ready for the arrival of multiple food critics that night. Archie takes the call, and it is his mother Molly telling him that his father's had a nasty accident. Thinking it extremely serious, he takes the sleeper from London to Glen Bogle. Now, I was curious as to how long that would take, so I looked up a similar distance from London to the fictional Glen Bogle would be Inverness. That would take you about 11 to 12 hours, and you would arrive at Glen Bogle station around 7:30 to 9 in the morning. You would then drive a car for 1 to 2 hours to the remote estate. Archie is picked up at the tiny train station at Glen Bogle by Duncan, who speeds up in a weathered Land Rover. Next, we're in Hector's bedroom, where he proclaims from bed that he doesn't want Archie here. and Molly gently tells him it is time. Lexie comes in with the breakfast tray, and Hector proclaims to the both of them that he is surrounded by hags and harpies. He then demands, "Where are my Marmite soldiers?" To which Lexie replies, "I had them court-martialed and shot." I had no idea what a Marmite soldier was, so I looked it up, and it turns out they're thin strips of toast spread with Marmite, served alongside a soft-boiled egg with the top removed, so you can dip your soldiers into the egg. It sounds really tasty, if only I liked Marmite. I haven't had it in 20 years, but I still remember when I had it, I thought it was terrible. Marmite is a yeast extract spread. It is dark brown and sticky, and the taste is very salty. The slogan for it is "Love it or hate it." Even though I remember hating it, I still think it might be time to revisit this very British food icon. Upon arrival, Archie sees that Hector is fully dressed and descending the stairs in perfect health. Archie is quite angry that he has been called away to what he thought was his dying father's bedside. Duncan brings Archie's bags into his old room, where we get a sense of melancholy as he walks around what still looks like a teenager lives there. Next, we find a new character, Katrina, in her schoolroom, talking to another teacher, who tells her he's returned. Katrina says, "Who, Maureen? The Jedi, Jesus Christ, Elvis Presley?" Maureen tells her the son and heir, Archie MacDonald. We immediately get the sense that Katrina is not in the least impressed with the news. Back at Glen Bogle, we see Molly take the phone into a closet, where we find out she likes to gamble as she puts money on a horse race. Next, we get a beautiful visual of an osprey landing in its nest. Golly is viewing it through binoculars, where a hide has been erected to view them. Katrina arrives, and they discuss the birds and the recent theft of osprey eggs from a nearby nest. Archie walks toward the hide, and Katrina takes off after him, thinking he is up to no good. She actually tackles him, thinking he might be the osprey egg thief. Golly introduces them, and they squabble a bit. It's clear that Katrina has no time for Glen Bogle aristocracy. Even so, I get a sense there could be a romance down the road. When I first saw the osprey, I thought it was a hawk, so I looked into it, and it turns out they are related, though the osprey is a bit bigger, and its diet consists almost entirely of fish. No tiny rodents for the osprey. Back at Glen Bogle Estate, we see Hector and Molly descending the stairs, dressed for dinner. Meanwhile, Archie and Duncan are seen in the Land Rover, about to leave for Glen Bogle Station so Archie can return to London. The Land Rover won't start, so Archie is next seen at the dinner table looking quite grumpy as Robbie Fraser arrives for dinner. We learn that he is the financial manager of the estate. Golly enters the dining room playing the bagpipes. Lexie is behind him, carrying the dinner tray with what looks like a big roast. Hector says he has tasted better shoe leather. We find that Archie intends to take the train the following night to London. The next morning, Archie looks out his bedroom window, where we see Hector loudly singing "Keep Right On to the End of the Road" to his dogs and the lock. It's very amusing. And I had to look up some information about that song, and I found that "Keep Right On to the End of the Road" was written in 1924 by, where did that go? Harry Lauder. He was born in Edinburgh, Scotland. The song actually has been used as the anthem for the Birmingham City Football Club since 1956. At this point, Molly walks in, and Archie is told that the estate has been signed over to him in a trust for tax reasons. Archie is gobsmacked. Archie gets more info on the state of things, and it sounds dire. Robbie advises that selling Glen is the only way to pay the enormous debt. He tells him that a couple of men are coming the following day to stalk deer, and they might be interested in buying the property. Archie confronts his father with the information that the estate must be sold. Hector rises out of his chair and declares, "Never! And what did I do to deserve a son like you?" Lexie in the background chimes in, "That's easy, impregnated his mother." This scene gives us further evidence as to the complicated relationship between Hector and Archie. Duncan and Archie head to the train station as Archie is eager to return to London. They're driving along and Duncan tells Archie that the sleeper doesn't run on Saturday. And of course it's Saturday. Archie in frustration has him stop the vehicle and he gets out to walk home. He's nearly run over by a pickup truck with a ladder in the back. He happens upon Golly and they see the men in the pickup get out and remove the ladder. It is then we have a hint that these are the Osprey thieves. They follow them and out jumps Katrina from a tree. They find the ladder and remove it, leaving the men high in the tree, and tell them the police will arrive in an hour. The three of them leave and go to Golly's to have a drink. Archie tells Golly that he is the new laird, and Golly, although he's loyal to Hector, seems very pleased about this. But next, Archie tells him that the estate must be sold, and two potential buyers are coming the next day, and he hopes Golly will give them a good stock. The scene leaves off with Golly looking very grim-faced. The next day, Molly is working in her garden, and Archie walks out to her complaining about his ongoing friction with his father. Molly stands up and comfortingly says to Archie, "Poor you," as she takes out a check from her winnings with the horse betting. She says it might help, and Archie tells her it's £55,000, and they owe the bank $375,000. I looked into it, and in today's money, they would owe about £806,000 to £810,000, or $1.1 million in American dollars. Archie hugs his mother and tells her she is the best of them. The two men and Robbie arrive to hunt deer. They head off through the gorgeous countryside. Archie brings up the subject of them buying the estate and informs them that they will have to see how their offer stands up to another bid. The man is astounded and says that Robbie never told him there was another bid. When he is out of earshot, Archie informs Robbie that he knows he's after a finder's fee from the men trying to buy the property, and he is fired. Robbie tells him we will see about that because Hector trusts him and not Archie. Golly and one of the men spy Big Eric. Golly tells him he has been saving that stag for Archie for 10 years. However, he can have it. Meanwhile, Katrina and a group of her friends arrive banging pots and pans, and fortunately, they spook Big Eric. Robbie takes off for the estate to get to Hector before Archie does. Archie bursts in to Hector's bedroom and declares that he has just sacked Robbie, and he has been robbing him blind since the day he got there. Hector seems to take Robbie's side until Archie tells him about the Osprey egg theft. Hector continues to back Robbie until Archie tells him that Robbie plans to sell the estate behind his back. With that, there's a shift in Hector's demeanor, even as Robbie tells him that Archie is barmy and hates him. Hector then tells him to pack his bags and get out, that Archie is his son and he doesn't think his son would lie to him. The scene ends with Hector telling Archie he suspects he will be staying on. Archie storms out, declaring, "No!" Hector has a mischievous smile across his face. In all his grumpiness and indignation over the situation, there is much affection for Archie. Archie takes off with his bags for the station, intent on leaving. Katrina happens upon him and tells him that he hasn't changed, that he always used to sulk. She said she was the little girl in primary school who sat beside him in the big double desk. He thinks back and remembers and calls her his long-ago nickname for her, Ginger Nut. She tells him to never call her that again. She says she nearly didn't recognize him because he no longer has a Scottish accent. He says you can't have the son of a laird sounding Scottish. Katrina gets in Archie's face and asks him how the thought of anyone owning all of this is obscene. She thinks if anyone should own it, it should be the community making a living there. She berates him some more and tells him it is better the devil you know, so why not the dashing young laird? He says he doesn't want it and states several reasons. Katrina asks him if he hates it that much, and he tells her that when he was sent away to boarding school, it felt like his arm was cut off. He used to call the phone box, which is just a few feet away from them, and imagine it ringing in all this silence. Katrina tells him most people have loads more problems than he does, and to go back to London and his beautiful life. He passes the red phone box, which now has a notice on it that says scheduled for removal. Along comes the truck to pick up the phone box. Archie hurries back to the truck and tells them adamantly not to take it. Another worker in the truck tells the driver, "Leave it, Jim. That's the new laird you're talking to." The episode ends with Archie in the phone box calling Justine. He says, "Listen, I've got a bit of a problem here." And we've reached the end of the episode. I have a few across the pond translations for you. The first word would be laird, which is the owner of a large Scottish estate. A loch is a lake. Dressing gown is what we would call bathrobe. A publican is someone who owns or runs a pub. Gobsmacked is when you're completely shocked or astonished by something. I really like that word. Sleeper train is an overnight train with beds. Telly, short for television. And tea could mean an actual drink or an entire meal, depending on the context. I had a friend in England, and whenever I would speak to her on the phone, she was always telling me that she had to go make tea for her children. And I imagine these four tiny tots drinking cups of tea. It was years later that I learned she was fixing their dinner. Some favorites of mine from the episode would be the scenery. The Highlands are this huge, wild, remote part of northern Scotland with mountains, valleys, misty lakes, and not a lot of people. It's beautiful and rugged. There's a sense that life is slower there and tougher and very tied to the land. It's just, I get a kick out of it in every episode. I want to see everything I can of the countryside. A funny line that I pulled from the episode is when Hector states he never thought a son of his would be a publican, referring to his owning a pub or a restaurant. He further says, "I blame that awful Thatcher woman." He's referring to Margaret Thatcher, who was the first woman to hold the office of Prime Minister of the United Kingdom from 1979 to 1990. She was a member of the Conservative Party. She died on April 8, 2013 at the age of 87. To this day, she remains one of the most divisive figures in British history. I love animals, so we're going to talk about any animal sightings we come across in the episode. And the major one in this episode is Big Eric. He isn't just a deer. He is the Highlands personified. Huge, wild, and untouchable. Definitely a character in his own right. We see a herd of deer when the two men are taken stalking. And we see Hector's two adorable dogs. I think they might be terriers. One of them is called Monty, but I didn't catch the name of the other one in this episode. And last but not least, we have the ospreys. Beautiful birds of prey that add a bit to the plot line. And that brings us to the end of this edition of Monarch of the Glen. From Glen Vogle's Rolling Hills to Hector's stubborn pride. Episode 1 reminds us that coming home isn't always easy, but it's often where the story begins. Thank you for curling up in the den with me. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a fellow telly lover, whether they're across the pond or right next door. If you'd like to share a thought or catch something I missed, you can email me at thedenofepisodes@yahoo.com. I'm Marlowe Fox, and until next time, keep the kettle on and the episodes rolling.